profile of an entrepreneur. What I wanted to go over, basically, it's a topic I've covered in bits and pieces through the years, right? We've gone over sort of the subject of entrepreneurs and what differentiates them. And I have my own theories upon this because I've really tutored a lot of entrepreneurs through the years. I've worked with lots of you guys individually. Many of you know me on a personal basis because we've been working together off and on for years, right? Lots of you that are on this call, we've worked together for years at this point. And this topic is very, very important. So I'm going to cover three basic areas, right? I'm going to do the Q&A, but really there's two main areas that I'm going to cover tonight. And as I said before, because a lot of people just hopped on, I'm going to be covering subtopics on this topic in YouTube vids. So I'm going to start doing some vid drops in this vein, in the future, based upon the questions that you guys have, also based upon sort of the common sense of the topic itself. There's a lot of subtopics to get into when it comes to business planning and just all different ways that you can raise money and loans. And there's just tons and tons and tons of stuff you can talk about when you talk about small business and entrepreneurship. Tonight, though, we're going to focus on the profile of what differentiates an entrepreneur from, your average 9-to-5 sort of worker, right? What's different about those people? Because you see them at all different ages, right? You'll see an entrepreneur that's 18 and one that's 80 and everything in between, and all races and all classes and all genders and all everything. There's just tons and tons and tons of people that for one reason or another, they're entrepreneurial minded, right? And then there's people that are more just worker minded, right? So what differentiates them? And then how do you take the lessons you learn from studying an entrepreneur and apply it to yourself? What do you need to do? Because first of all, and before I even get into this, and I'll go over it again, I'm sure, entrepreneurs in my mind are not people that are born. They're not born, CEOs, right? They're not born. They're created, and they're self-created generally. And that's what we're going to cover here with personal growth. It's really how some topics and some habits and some things to go over in your life that can really drastically change things for you. And then, of course, we'll do Q&A, right? And if you have any questions right now, feel free to write them down. Or if you don't want to write them down and throw them in chat, if you'd rather get an email reply from me, always feel free to send me an email, jake@rocketdriver.com, and I'll reply to you. Now, what is an entrepreneur, right? A lot of people, this is a term that's been so thrown around, right? And misapplied to everything from, drug dealers to CEOs to corporate criminals to, people who have no real connection to any kind of transactional business whatsoever. They're really just paper pushers, stock people. It's so misapplied, and it's a term that's so bastardized, really, by its misuse, that it's one of those things that to even have an intelligible discussion upon the subject, you have to start at the basis, really. You have to figure out, what is an entrepreneur? What exactly is an entrepreneur? What do they do? What is this species of human? And basically what they are, it basically applies to anybody who has the drive and determination to own their own business and the willingness to go do it. And at that point, you're an entrepreneur. So it's not very complicated. It's a fundamental basis, but entrepreneurship, and you're talking about people that are entrepreneurs, they generally, in my experience, you can spot the kind of person that's going to succeed based upon, that single involuntary kind of thing that they have in themselves, where they're going to put in the effort, right? If you're willing to put in the effort, you can be successful, because building your own business is just about learning tons of little facts, stitching them together, developing the proper habits, developing the proper protocols for your life, and then implementing it. So a big part of it is about your drive. And it's something that if you have the drive, you can make yourself into an entrepreneur. Some of the most unlikely people. And I mean, you can historically go back over, if you've ever spent a little time, studying the biographies and autobiographies of, various entrepreneurs. And I mean, very high-end people, but also people who are more like inventors, and people who founded even small businesses and bothered to write their story. I've gone through and I've read quite a few biographies, and I've met thousands of entrepreneurs through the years. And I can tell you that they're all made. They're not born that way. And they come in an incredible variety of forms. When you really get into it, there's the stereotypical, sort of pop culture vision of the monopoly man, right? With like the monocled eye and the top hat. And that represents your businessman, stereotype or meme or whatever you want to call it. But that's not reality. Reality is you go out and meet CEOs and presidents, people who've owned companies and are founding companies. They come in a wide variety. And what unifies them is really always that drive, that determination. I want to just make double sure with you guys. You guys are seeing this presentation on your screen, right? Everyone's seeing it. Everybody's hearing me good. I've got a confirmation from Tom, but I just want to double check with everybody who's on here that you guys can hear me okay and you can see the screen. Everybody hear and see. If somebody would fire away in chat. All right, thank you, Albert. Really appreciate it. Just wanted to double check because we had a surge in people just hop on. So now let's get into this profile a little bit. Hello, entrepreneur. My name is. And, at this point, it's very important for people, all of you, everybody here, all of us, what are we in the business doing? We're founding agencies, right? That's the business that we're in right now today, right? It doesn't matter the profile of the entrepreneur that founds a car wash or goes and becomes a, professional realtor or whatever else, right? Matters is this industry. So keep in mind, you got to keep in mind, and I mentioned it, I know, in a slide here, but you have to keep in mind that this industry has a lot lower expectations and burden and financial risk and everything else really thrown upon us. When you get into other industries, one of the reasons I originally, if I had unlimited resources when I was a teenager, guys, I can tell you, I'd probably be running some kind of a custom textile company or something totally different. But I got into IT and I got into this whole business originally way back when I was a teenager because it was something that I could do. And it's something that we all can do. We have a very simple mission, all of us. Businesses here is it's buy low over here, sell high over there, right? You sell to your retail customer and you make your profit. You buy wholesale and you get your service and you get it implemented. It's very simple. Many business models, many of them are incredibly either labor intensive, things like when you're looking at sole proprietors, individuals that are going out there and doing the actual work and labor of the job after they do the job of selling and running the business and everything else. You see that in construction and in various types of, various trades and various professions where the work is actually being carried out. You could even say a surgeon is in a similar situation where they are literally their own labor force. Now, when you come to us, we don't have those problems of the overhead or of something that's very labor intensive or something also. To go to another kind of business, you see a lot, entrepreneurs, you see a lot, the people that go heavily into debt to get their business to operate, right? Most businesses take years to ever see their first, penny on the table, right? So they're a huge gamble. I've had friends through the years. I had friends that lived on credit cards for 2 and 3 years when they were opening their restaurants, right? When they were running their restaurants and they're taking out loan after loan and robbing Peter to pay Paul. And eventually one of them succeeded. A friend of mine has a very successful restaurant. I have friends that went completely bankrupt from that. And, they did it all over again, went bankrupt, business gone, poof, gone. They just started up another one and marched right ahead. And, they had several businesses fail. Entrepreneurs, when you look at the profile of who this person is, they're people who've been through a lot and in industries other than ours that are a hell of a lot harder most of the time. Now, why all this stuff matters is that why it's important to pay attention to other industries, to profile and to think about the mind and the person behind these businesses that you look at is because success is not like an act of, it's not an accident. People will say, well, so-and-so got lucky. So-and-so's business got lucky. Yeah, but they were in the game to get lucky. If you found one business in your life, it doesn't go so great, and you close it up after 3 months and you just go back to work for someone else and you work the rest of your life working for somebody else, you can look back and say, once I tried opening a business and I gave it a quarter-hearted attempt and gave up after a very short period of time. Versus if you look at an entrepreneur, those are the folks usually that are going to stick it out longer. They're going to make their own luck. They're going to go out there and they're going to recognize success is not an accident. You have to be in it to win it. You have to be pitching people to make sales. You have to be making sales to make money. Everything is connected. This is a connection, a whole bunch of different connected, small, inexcusable details merged with all the daily facts, my daily grind, my weekly plan, my monthly plan, my quarterly, yearly plans. All these things are all connected together. And the entrepreneur is somebody that recognizes that and takes control. If your business was a ship, the entrepreneur is the captain that's up there at the helm, manning it during the storm. They're not going to allow any kind of, headwinds to push them back. They're not going to stop. They're just going to keep punching. And that's why they succeed ultimately. The average entrepreneur, they go bankrupt something like 2.3 times, something like that. Average person that becomes a millionaire, right? I think it was the average millionaire has been bankrupt 2.5 times or 2.25 times, something like that. And you guys can look this up and fact check it. But the point is that most people you meet that are successful in business have had multiple tries, multiple failures. And what they've learned from it is they've learned more. It's more about themselves, generally speaking, than it is about, happenstance, luck, and, all that kind of stuff, right? It's really about, you can't control the variables around you. You can't control what's going on around you, but you can control how you respond to it. And that's a huge part of success as well. Now, success itself, it follows a predictable pattern, and it does not follow this one. I call it the 9-to-5 mentality, and this is not to look down upon or denigrate or in any way cast any kind of negativity upon people who work, jobs, because look, we're all connected. We're all part of one society ultimately, right? So everybody's working at whatever level they're able to work at. But when you look at the mentality, the mental difference between the entrepreneur and the 9-to-5er, this hit me years ago, guys. I can't explain to you how starkly this really hit me. And it hit me when I started really working with tons of entrepreneurs, like working with entrepreneurs every day. And I realized, I said, the problem is you have to decondition people. You have to get the 9-to-5 mentality out of their heads. And once you do that, it's like crystal clarity. The world becomes a diamond. You could cut it with a knife. You can look around and you can see clarity where there used to be confusion. A 9-to-5 mentality is really something, if you think about it, and this was something that came to me, it's something that springs out of people's whole conditioning their whole life, if you think about it. Because you're a little kid, you have parents or a parent or guardians or whatever. Then you move on to school and you have teachers. Then you go on, you're being told, go to college. Okay, now you have a professor. Then you go and you get a job and you have a boss. And anything goes wrong, you always have authority figures and people telling you what to do at each stage. So how on earth could you ever learn to think on your own if there's this constant, it's not even a safety net, because there's no safety in following the advice of other people, especially if the other people are proven to be wrong quite a bit. So what it really is it's almost like a submission thing, right? Where you agree to, check your free will at the door, walk through and, cede that authority to somebody else based upon a transfer of wealth. That's exactly what a job is, right, guys? So when you think about that and you think about the mentality this fosters over many, many years, an entire lifetime in many people's cases, and now suddenly they've decided, well, I'm going to just eschew all of that, throw it out. I'm going to go and do my own thing. That's great, but you have to learn how to do your own thing, because you have to kind of rewind and rethink and go through and say, well, business decisions, and even the most mundane decision, right, now has to be rethought, because you have to look at it from a position of leadership and authority and ownership. And you have to look at everything as you own it. You own your time. You own your decisions. You own your business directives, anything that you're doing in marketing and sales, how you're handling your customers. Everything has to be gone over with a critical thought. It can't be accepted as, oh, well, so-and-so said so that's how it is. So who cares? I don't control that. No, now you control everything. If you go from a 9-to-5er to an entrepreneur, you're going from a position of, you control your job, your little area. That's it. And that's where your thinking stops, to all of a sudden, everything has to be considered by you. You control everything. The color of the napkins, the painting on the wall, just everything, right? And I know in our industry, there's going to be no napkins, but the point is, you control everything, right? You're in control of this whole business. So you have to think of it very differently. Your position within your, the way you earn money now is dramatically changed. What tends to happen, unfortunately, what I've seen happen with people tend to get frazzled by this. They just get stressed out. They get overwhelmed, right? It happens to some people. They get overwhelmed. They look at it. They're going from a situation where they're responsible for 2% of a business's, overall activity to 100%, right? And even when they bring on some salespeople, now all of a sudden they get salespeople to worry about. So people will load themselves up with stress because they don't. It's fear of the unknown. Anything is scary that you haven't done before. If I'd never ridden a bicycle and someone threw me on a mechanical device, I would be thinking this thing, I'm going to fall off this thing and crack my head open, right? So it would be scary. I'm an adult, but it would be scary if I hadn't done it before. Driving a car, I'm in a 3,000, 4,000 pound machine that's hurtling along at, 10 times what my max speed is when I run. It's flying down the road and it can kill me, but I'm not afraid of it because I know what I'm doing. It's the same thing with running a business, the same exact thing. You have, your mind might jam up at all the different inscrutable details that you have to concern yourself with. What you have to do is, as an entrepreneur, your mentality has to be, okay, I'm running this business now. What are my priorities? What's my plan? And I'm going to get into that a little later because planning is crucial. If you just jump into a business and you're coming from a worker's mentality, a 9-to-5er's mentality, and all of a sudden, you're not going to have an order of priority in your head to know what matters more than not. What can I leave alone? What should I focus on? What should my decision tree look like for my day? If you just leap into it without, a good background, you can put yourself in a situation where, you have a lot of undue stress that you should not have and should not feel and shouldn't experience because it shouldn't scare you one bit to run your business. It should scare you a lot more looking back on a lifetime of regret headed into a pine box with a 9-to-5 mentality. That should scare you. Running a business should not. But in our upside down world, quite often it's the opposite case. Let's talk a little bit more about this entrepreneurial mentality. There's 3 main characteristics, right? The most important thing is the mentality. You have to have the right mentality. You have to have your head screwed on straight. If it's not, you're going to be in a situation where running your business, you're going to have small, minute, pointless, useless, idiotic details lead you astray. You'll spend more time worrying about the window dressing than the window, and everything can go to hell in a handbasket real fast. Entrepreneurial mentality. If you master anything, you have to master the mentality of somebody running the business. You have to, number one, you wake up. There's no one there to tell you to go to work. You have to go to work yourself. You have to be self-motivated. You have to be hardworking. I could tell you, Tom, the guy, he's been the anchor, rocket driver, okay, since day one. And Tom, that guy, I've seen that guy put in 120-hour weeks before. I've actually seen it. I've put in plenty of 80 plus myself and some very long hours. And I probably have pulled 120-hour plus weeks. I definitely have when I was younger. But the point is, when you develop that mentality, not an hour of it was work. It's just what I had to do. I wasn't there with a person, standing over my shoulder telling me what to do. I tell other people what to do. But me, who tells me? Nobody, because it's not even a thought in my head. It's just, this is what I do. I get up and Jake goes and does that until he's too tired to do it anymore. Then he goes to sleep, eats Chinese food and heads to bed. Like, that's the mentality you've got to have, right? You have to have the mentality that you're going to get up and just throw yourself at it. You have to be an independent learner, because a lot of things, no matter what, no one is going to be able to tell you. And half the time, spending the time to use different channels that you have access to, and I'm not talking about us, I just mean with technology in general, half the time you have to learn to be a creative problem solver, figure stuff out yourself, because you'll end up spending more time trying to fix problems than you will utilizing solutions that you have at your disposal. That's kind of the way that I've learned through the years, not to get sidetracked, but how I judge software, right? If I spend X amount of time, it's one thing to have a ramp up time, like a learning curve, guys. And it's like this with everything in business. You're always going to have a learning curve, software, new computers, new anything, right? It's always going to be the case. But if that learning curve becomes so steep that now it's subtracting from the time of use, you have to throw away and find new solutions. You have to be a creative problem solver. The solution is what you're after, always, as an entrepreneur, is a solution to a problem, not something shiny to impress other people, not something that, is there for whatever, sentiment. What you're doing with tools in business is you're basically just ripping solutions that you can grab anywhere, putting together those solutions so that they function, and then building your agency using them, right? That's what it's about. It's about grabbing tools and making do with what you have, and always, marching forward. And of course, at the end, like I said before, hardworking, very important. Now, they also have to be big picture focused. And this is where I talk you a little bit about planning because, one of the problems I've seen, and I've seen it not with everybody, this is not like a wide scale problem. It's not the coronavirus of, rocket driver. Okay, guys. But a problem I've seen is where people are not looking at the overall big picture at their businesses, right? Or the industry. They're not looking at things from 5 feet back, 10 feet back, or 50 yards back, or whatever, whatever your back is. They're not looking at the big picture. They're looking at small things and getting bogged down. Like it's so easy, guys, to get bogged down with just the smallest possible things. I mean, and it's happened to me so many times in different projects I've been involved with, different tools I'm using, different pieces of software, just different things that cause issues for you in business. You have to always step back and say, okay, what is this doing big picture? How much time is this sapping of mine? Am I making a profit at this? When you're looking at individual deals and you're looking at daily problems, that's kind of an important thing. Big picture for you guys, one of the most important things is to have a plan, right? To develop for yourself goals, to say to yourself, okay, this quarter, this week, this month, this quarter, this is what I'm going to get done. And what you get done, you could say, make my first few sales, right? I'm going to get a sale this week, for example, right? I know it's Thursday, maybe it's a little late in your week this week, but the point is, you say to yourself, I'm going to get a sale this week, and you pursue that doggedly, right? Make that your focus. Or you say to yourself, I'm going to get a local partnership established with a couple different businesses this week, and you get that established. But you have a goal and you work towards it, right? You have multiple goals. You lay down all the goals you want. What I used to do years ago is when I would sit down with people, and I would sit down with guys and very similar guys and gals to this crowd that's on right now, and I would talk to a business owner. I would say, well, tell me about your business, not the way it is now. Tell me how it is when it's ideal, right? If you're running a restaurant, tell me about your ideal restaurant. Well, it's going to have 120 seats, and it's going to serve this many different things on the menu, and it's going to be located here and this. And they would draw up a plan, and then they would talk to me about the business they had right now, right? It would be like, well, my restaurant right now is 80 seats. I want 40 more. And, and then you would draw the difference, and you'd say to them, look, the difference is 20%, 30%, right? So you're going to achieve your goals, right? It just might take you a couple extra years. But now imagine if that same business was way off. Like their goal was 120 seats, but they had 10 or something like that, right? Or they were running a push cart. Well, now you're in a situation where what you're operating is so divergent from your goal or your dream or what you're looking to do that either you're on a very long pathway, a long timeline to success, or you're in a situation where you're never going to succeed. And either one or the other is true, right? Either you're going to succeed and it's going to take a long time because that's what the numbers tell us, or, you're not going to succeed at all because you're not even on course for that dream to ever become reality. With you guys at your businesses, every single one of you, the dream can become a reality, right? You're so close. You have almost no overhead. Now, I don't know your personal finance or debt and stuff like that. Never gotten into that with any of you, but your businesses don't have a long road or so between where you are right now and huge profitability. It's just a matter of sales. And a lot of you have that profitability. You have those sales. You have your people. There are people on here right now that processed sales this week. And you guys know who you are, and you processed those sales this week. You did it during a pandemic. I mean, hats off to you, really. But getting to that point, you had a plan. Just about all of you. I know that for a fact because I've talked to lots of you who are successful. You guys all had plans. Yep, exactly. You're typing in. Because having that plan gave you a structure. When you have a structure, then you can see when you're failing or you're succeeding. Without a plan, without something on paper, it says, okay, this is going to happen in this time frame, or else I'm failing myself and I need to make changes. Or I'm succeeding, I need to stay the course. Because you can be blind both ways. You can be blind to your success and blind to your failure. It works in all directions when it comes to business. I have talked to people, like I've literally been on the phone, guys, with people where I've sat down, just having a conversation. And I've said this to you guys before, but I'm going to say it again, where they're telling me they're working really hard. And I said, well, how many calls you making? They said, oh, I don't know, maybe 15. And I'd say, oh, well, what, this morning? They'd go, no, this month. And I'm going, huh? Well, of course you're not succeeding. Made 15 calls in a month. That's like 10:30 smoke break time between, between getting to work and smoke break, 15 calls. 15 calls in a month. What do you do with your days? What's your real job? Because it's not running your agency. And the most important thing, and I put it up here in bullets, I said, develop a plan and stick to it, but understand why that planning is crucial. And that's kind of what I'm talking to you guys about right now. Planning is crucial just to give you that frame of reference, to give you something to follow, right? I can't plan for you. You know your local areas. You know your situation. You know what kind of marketing you're going to do. You know the tools, the resources, and everything you have at your disposal. It's up to you to go and use them. And that's a big part of entrepreneurship. Now, successful people, most of your successful entrepreneurs, most of them that I've known were very regimented people, or at least fairly regimented. I think they were very regimented. People that I know who built large businesses, built, strong, profitable organizations, were all the kind of folks that went to bed on time, woke up on time, and followed, simplified their lives as much as possible in certain areas so that they could support and tolerate the complexity that was necessary in others at their businesses. They avoided time waste, avoided drama. They had daily objectives and goals. Most of them exercised and really took care of themselves, because you have to kind of do that if you're going to handle running your agency. If you want to make millions of dollars, right? If you want to do anything in life, you want to become a weightlifter, you want to become a millionaire, you want to learn to play violin, you are going to make a sacrifice to do that, right? Most of these sacrifices are time. Some of them are, harsh exercise. Some of them are lots of study. When it comes to a business, your time is what you sacrifice, your time. You invest time in a business and you get money out, right? And during that time, of course, all kinds of different talents come into play, right? You're spending your time, you're spending your mental faculties, your mental energy, you're working, but you're doing so as an investment in yourself. To make that investment as lucrative as possible, you have to cut out all the BS that's interfering with your investment. You're going to spend time, what does the business want? It wants your undivided attention, right? It's like a child. You can't half raise a kid, right? Come up with a feral human. It wouldn't be too cool. Drama, distraction, and doom. Very, very, very important stuff that you have to cut out and avoid. One thing I could tell you guys, the partying, drinking, doing whatever, right? Any, fun, crazy stuff has no place in business. You have to avoid any interpersonal strife, drama. Treat your business with the utmost respect. Health, remembering that is your business. You get sick. Guys, I can tell you from personal experience, I got sick. My neck went out. I had to get surgery to get it all bolted back together again. From like my jaw to my chest, it's all just metal rods and pins and stuff inside. Having that done, that knocked me out for over a year. I forget wealth. It was, I was fortunate, but a lot of people in my situation would have been doomed. And I almost was doomed, right? Because I was knocked out of the game completely from work for a long time while I recuperated. You have to pay attention to this stuff. Successful entrepreneurial-minded people always do. They always do. I've known many in my life, and they absolutely always do. The successful ones, because you throw all kinds of partying and stress and drama and bad health and anything like that on top of building a business, and you're basically setting up a disadvantaged situation, and you can't do that. You have to put yourself first. This is the most important. This isn't even a lesson. This is just straight wisdom, right? Wisdom from Jake. Put you first. Nobody else will. No one else is going to build your agency for you. You have to put you first. Remember this, most important thing. You are ultimately responsible. That thing succeeds, you did it. That thing fails, you did it. There's going to be nobody else there captaining that boat to be either, cheered or blamed, right? So you have to be selfish about your business. I'm not saying to turn into Scrooge and, become some nut. That's not my point at all. But you have to put it first. You have to put your business first. You're not doing anybody a favor if your business goes under. So it needs to succeed. That has to be priority one. Is this thing, first of all, has to succeed before it's going to do any of the amazing stuff that you've got in your head that it's going to do, and help the people it's going to help, and anything else. Before all that, it's got to survive. Survive means it's got to get sales. Getting sales means you have to get your butt moving and get out there and market. You have to get in touch with people. And it's really that simple. I think just about anybody here, if you had a telephone and just a computer, and you were really asked, go out there and get a sale, I think you could get somebody on the phone, because you have the resources of search engines. You have limitless leads around you. You have all the resources at your disposal to make a sale happen. It's just a matter of going and applying yourself to go and do it. And for those of you who are new, if this is like your first week at Rocket Drive or anything like that, I know we got some people like that on. Understand, you don't have to get a sale day one. Okay. That's cool. I'm not berating you for not having a sale day one. I'm not berating people who even it might be 2 months and they haven't got a sale yet, because there's people are moving at different speeds and you're doing different things. And I know a lot of you have very complex businesses that encompass different companies entirely. But, those of you who are entrepreneurial, who are on this call, would you agree? You have to put yourself first. I'm curious to get your perspective on that, because I think it's an area where some people who are new to business kind of don't understand that. It's not about being selfish. It's just, you've got to really keep in mind that the money that's going to come in here at this business, it's all based upon you and your planning. And you have to recognize the power is all in your hands, but nobody else is going to help you or your business unless you help yourself. Now, I want to talk a little bit about personal growth, right? And change, right? Because, personal growth, personal change, very important aspects of business. And when we get into this, personal growth, a lot of people have the mentality that I've dealt with that personal growth it's almost like the fire walking, right? You get it from people a lot. They think that they're going to show up at some resort somewhere or convention hall, and they're usually going to spend thousands to show up, either at the resort or the convention hall. They're going to walk across some burning coals, and suddenly they're going to conquer life's problems. Or they're going to show up at an event, listen to a guy talk on stage a little bit, and, walk away with a t-shirt, a mug, and a changed life. Not how it happens. I can tell you guys from personal experience in my own life making changes and helping a lot of other people, success is a process, and it's an applied process. It's not theoretical. It's not like a transcendental spiritual experience, which, I guarantee you those are real too, but they have nothing to do with business. When we're talking about personal changes that lead to more success in business and more success in being able to manage life and handle situations and handle all this stuff that's coming at you, it's a slow process. And I shouldn't say slow process. That makes it sound like it's impossible. Like you're not becoming Yoda, okay? You're not levitating stones with your mind and stuff like that. But what you are doing is you're applying yourself to increasingly complex and iterative changes at your business, right? If you're going to make changes to become a better entrepreneur, if you're going to go through a process of personal growth, it starts with small but permanent changes. And those changes become bigger and bigger with time, and you grow into it. Okay. It's not like you walk in day one and declare yourself Bill Gates or something crazy like that. What you do is you start your agency, you begin to make the necessary investment of your time, your will, your energy, your effort, and you begin to get feedback, and you begin that process of refinement where you're going to make incremental changes. You're going to say, well, it's taking a lot of time to, I've got 2 demos a day to do, and they're going to take me 3 hours. Well, I better schedule them at X or Y times in the day. And as you slowly ramp up the workload, you slowly begin to get more and more efficient. In other words, you don't just one day wake up and poof, make all these changes. It's a process, right? You have to make your changes gradually. You have to focus on the really crucial changes as well, because there are many things, and like I've said this many times tonight, there are many things where times where you can focus on the wrong things. You can look at problems as being situational, for example. Look at Rocket Drive, and I'll just give you one example of this. Through the years we've had to make different changes, right? As time has gone on, we've had different different systems in place, different videos up there, just different stuff. And we learned to be very good critical thinkers. We get a question once in support. Okay, that's a one-off question. Just answer it. But if we get that same question 50 times, we don't sit there and answer it. We make a video and disseminate it to everybody because we realize, okay, if we get a question over and over and over again, this is something chronic. This is like this is a problem that is acute. We have to take care of it versus this is something that's structural. We have to live with, right? You guys understand the difference. Personal growth is in the same way, where you've got to learn, where do you focus yourself on making changes? Do you go and make changes on your marketing side of your business? Do you really focus on becoming like the best possible, cold caller in the game? Or do you focus more on building out partnerships locally? Whatever these changes are for you and your business, I view them as extensions into one another. I don't view them as separate and distinct entities that operate completely apart. You have to identify the problems and solve them and develop a plan and stick to it. Really critical, guys. And you'll hear me say that 1,000 times. And, I'm going to do a YouTube vid, I think, just on this topic of business planning and come up with some more stuff to show to you guys because there's some really interesting stuff out there. Now, actions have consequences, right? It's easily seen. You take a look, the relationship between ideas and discipline, right? Which are kind of like the two primordial elements of success in business, right? You have a concept of, your dream, your vision, and then you have the discipline to carry it out. The fusion of these two things is really what success is made from. And it's important to keep this in mind, right? Is that you had this idea, right? Whether you got the idea because you saw it online, you read about it, you had it already, whatever. You have an idea for a business. Then you have the discipline to work for a period of time to make that idea a reality. Now, with us, you have a lot of help on the idea front and on the discipline front. We're helping you with as many systems as we can and doing as much work as we can on our end. The actions and the success, right? The closing of business, the transacting of sales, and the success that comes from it. That's the outcome. Really important that everybody, when you're thinking about your business plans, when you're drawing them up, if you're going to go down that road of giving yourself a plan, and it doesn't matter how you give yourself a plan. It could be written in pencil in a spiral-bound notebook. It could be typed out online in Grammarly. It could be anywhere, right? It doesn't matter how you phrase your plan or put your plan in place. But it is important that you understand the relationship between these various things, right? You have your dream of your business. You have the amount of work you can dump into it to make it happen. And then you have the outcome, right? And these things all, they're all kind of relative to each other. Right? The more discipline you have, the more of a clearly defined vision you have for your business, well, usually the more defined and palpable the outcome is, right? So the more success we see there. Now, I'm going to just real briefly go over plans, then we'll do some Q&A here because we're almost done with the presentation. But, when it comes to plans and planning, like I said all night long, and I said this for the last half hour, it's really important that everybody have a plan. Start very simple, give yourself a basic outline of what your week should look like, month should look like, what kind of agency, where you want to see your sales come from, what kind of sales you want to have. Just be as descriptive as you can, right? But start simple. Don't make it 50 pages long. It should fit on a page, right? Simple little plan, right? This is my goal. My name is Jake. I am going to found an agency called XYZ. We are going to sell B2B, B2C, these IT solutions, digital services. We're going to sell them and we're going to sell in this way. We're going to market in this way. And we're going to devote this much time every day to marketing. And my goal for the week is I expect with this much time invested, I'm going to get this many demos out. And this many demos should translate into this many sales at a closing ratio presumed to be X. And with that plan in place, after a month, I can look at my metrics and say, I was wrong. I was right. I was low. I was high. I was left, right, up, down. I was wrong. Or things went better than I thought. But I have that plan. Really important. And, this is one of the last slides here. And I think it's really important to end on this notice, to put a little box around this thing and give you some context that our industry that we're in, and you heard me say it before, relative to other industries, is in the grander scheme of things, incredibly easy industry to found a business within. And I would say even now with COVID-19, even with any, you could really throw anything at it because the internet, there's 800 million plus websites online just from the United States, right? Just the United States, 800 million plus. And I think it's on the whole internet, it's in the billions, right? There's billions and billions of sites now. And, if 10% of them are being paid for and upkept, that leaves, what, a couple hundred million out there, a few hundred million or something, online. So we have such a big marketplace. We have so many ways to tap that marketplace. Remember, we're not in a single service industry. We're not like the tire guys that sell tires. We sell everything, right? We sell websites, search engine optimization, social media management. We're selling SEO. We're selling everything that a business needs to succeed and dominate online at a local, regional, national, or even global level. So everybody could be a client of ours. In that context, with this low of overhead and this straightforward of a mission, where it's just get them on the phone, close them out, it's pretty straightforward. The consulting is not really complicated. And I was going to do a video on this, on consulting, to explain it, because someone told me that, Jake, it's complicated. You're talking about this consulting stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but do you have any idea what real consulting is like? I mean, like real legit, authentic, like manufacturing, like doing SWOT analysis, for example, a Six Sigma consultant, somebody that goes into a manufacturer and shows them how to shave fractions of pennies off of industrial processes, in order to save them millions a year in the final cost of operations. That's consulting. Going into a pizza shop and talking to them about their website and going over why it's a piece of junk and they need a new one. That's straightforward stuff. That's really straightforward. It's like you show up, and if you were a mechanic and you show up and there's a car and its tires are all flat, the engine's shot, and there's leaking some fluid on the ground, it doesn't take too much to convince the owner that this thing needs to go to a junkyard. When they talk to a business about, software consulting or, different development projects where you're going to do custom programming of application software or stuff like that, that consulting can, you spend years on a single deal. Granted, they pay well, but you get the idea. In our industry, this is not rocket science. This is not incredibly complicated stuff we're doing. We're doing stuff in this industry that, frankly, anybody can do. The question is, do you want to? If you see the rewards, it shouldn't take you very long to get excited about this business. Now, I'll leave it with this little quote here. Building a business is like creating a work of art. It's never complete in the eyes of the creator. A weakness and a strength. And I put this here because it's very, very true. And I don't remember exactly whose quote it was, but it was a very interesting quote to me because it's so true. I don't know a single business owner that's happy with their business. And I mean people that own big companies that are doing really well for themselves. And then, they'll say, oh, well, they're happy, but they've got a million gripes and complaints about a million things. So you can't beat yourself up too much, right? Doesn't matter what kind of business you're building. You're always going to run into situations where you have things that you don't like, things that aren't perfect. It's never going to be perfect. Business isn't like that. It's never, ever perfect. It's about functional or dysfunctional, right? Functional business makes money. Dysfunctional loses money. It's that simple, right? It's never going to be perfectly aligned with exactly what you want. All right, guys. Well, it's been great speaking to all of you. It's been wonderful talking to everybody. If you guys have any questions, always feel free to fire me an email, jake@rocketdriver.com. Look out for our YouTube channel. We're going to be putting up some new vids next week. And I look forward to you guys, getting out there and selling. Stay safe, everyone. As I've said in last week's presentation, and the one before, COVID-19 is on the way out. I think that things are looking really good. The number of deaths seems to be plateauing. And things seem to be looking a little better, which is great for all of us and great for everybody. Get out there, market your businesses, stay strong, and I'll see you guys in the next webinar. Bye, everyone.